everybody, Invisiblekatana here with my review for X-Men Dark Phoenix, or I guess it's technically just Dark Phoenix. There of course will be spoilers in this review, but they will be in the second half as the title says, so I'll let you guys know with the full-on spoiler warning when I get to that portion. Just to kick things off, I thought it was okay. I know it's been getting like really bad it's been getting bad like critic reviews and stuff. And I know people weren't excited. I wasn't even really that excited. Admittedly, it was one of those things where I was like, I would see it because it's it's a Marvel movie, Marvel characters at least. So I was like, I'm gonna see it. It's an X-Men movie. I had no real interest in it. It was kind of just like, I'm gonna check it out. I was excited. Days of Future Past. I was like, I think everybody was excited for that. X-Men Apocalypse. I was at least excited for. I was like, that seems interesting. Olivia Munn's in it. That's automatic. And then this one, I was like, Dark Phoenix. Dark Phoenix is cool as a storyline in itself. And maybe it's just the fact that it's never really been done that well. Like, it's been done in the comics, and it was done in the, the old X-Men cartoon. And then they did it for X-Men 3. And now it's, X-Men 3 Part 2. And it was like, okay. Okay. I mean, that is hard to say. Is it less entertaining? I don't know. That's tough to say. Because the other one, at least, and that's the funny thing about this. X-Men 3 had the build up of the first two movies, even with this technically being like the fourth, if you think of it, because we had First Class, Days of Future Past, Apocalypse, and now this one. This is the fourth one. Even with that, it's kind of like, I mean, I kind of know these people, but not really. Because like all the characters are like the young characters from the last movie, and it was like, well, I mean, they were in that last movie, but there wasn't really much to it. And all in all, I thought the movie, like I said, was just okay. There wasn't that much to it. There wasn't even that much action, if I'm being totally honest. I think the last one, I think all the other movies did better as far as action. The action sequence was actually great, but there's legitimately like 3 action scenes in the whole movie, and it's literally like one in the beginning, and the other 2 are at the end of the movie. Like, it's action sequence, and it was an okay scene, and then like the final action sequence, and that was cool. So visually, the action was actually great, and this is super random. But when it was in the beginning of the movie, they have a scene where there's a car crash, and I don't know what it was, but for some reason I was like, that's a good car crash. Like, it just looked good. I was like, it looked right. It seemed like it was realistic, because normally they do the flip, and like the car is flipping 1,800 times. It was like it hit, and I was like, that's what a car crash would look like. And for some reason, it was just something about it stood out as very realistic to me. I don't know why, but I wanted to note that because I was just like, something about that it really caught my attention. The slow motion for it was good. It wasn't overdone. It wasn't like 18 angles of slow motion, and it's like, well, that when you do it from that angle, it looks like they flipped it a second time. Stuff like that. It was just like, boom, they got it, and it was done. And I was like, that looked really good. I don't know why that stood out. It just did. That was the beginning of the movie. That's not like a range on how good the movie is. Like, the thing that stands out is the car crash. It was just one thing that I happened to notice. As far as the characters, it was all right. They had a cool scene with Nightcrawler. They have, Jean is Dark Phoenix. This is Jean is Dark Phoenix. Scott is just, Cyclops is Cyclops. I don't know if anyone can possibly do anything with him. I mean, just it's Cyclops. What can you do? The only time he was sweet was Wolverine in the X-Men, and Disney canceled that. So that was it. Scott was Scott. it was just funny. I was like, man, this dude is just, there's nothing you can do to make me like Scott. He's like Superman. It's just like, this dude is just this thing, and unless he switches it 100%, I just don't care about him. Like, it's just Scott Summers. I just don't care. But that is the case. That's what happened. Quicksilver's in the movie, not as much as he should be. Storm was in the movie. She had a cool little bit here and there. She had some cool lines. Does some cool stuff. Magneto's in it. Magneto does Magneto stuff. I think they were doing some references, but obviously this is the last movie, and I was like, I feel like this is a reference to some extra stuff, and I'll talk about that in the spoiler segment. But I was like, okay, I feel like that would be a lead-in reference if they were going to have another movie. There is no post-credit scene because this is officially the last. There's no super secret little thing like maybe this will happen. There's no hope. It's dead. Like, there's no post-credit sequence. There's nothing. It would have been cool if they did another Spider-Man thing because they did that before. But yeah, there's nothing extra coming out. But it was just okay. It was actually a talking movie, which oddly enough, that was kind of the part that I enjoyed. I was like, for some reason, I enjoyed the fact that there was a lot of talking in it because it seemed like it was specifically because they were going into some stuff with Xavier that they never touched on, and is one of my favorite things about Xavier, where it's like, this is a dude who is, he's kind of godly when you think about it as far as like the X-Men characters are concerned. He's like, it's Charles Xavier. He's trying to save mutants and help humans see that mutants can be good and stuff like that. And they don't really touch on kind of the hubris of Professor X, and I love that they do that in this movie, and I think that's why I don't mind that there wasn't that much action, because the stuff they talk about, at least when it specifically revolves around Xavier, is entertaining. When it goes to like Dark Phoenix and stuff like that, it's kind of just like I don't care, and I think a part of it is because of the fact that it's going nowhere because this is the last movie. So I think a part of it is just like I almost don't care anything that they do with her character, because it's Dark Phoenix. As a comic reader, or even just watching the old cartoon, it's kind of like, Dark Phoenix is like this whole thing, and it's like, here's this movie. Everything else is dead. I don't even know if New Mutants is coming out. I wish they would just put that movie out already, but Dark Phoenix comes out, and it's like, here's Dark Phoenix. It's the last of all the X-Men Sony stuff. It's dead, and that is all there is to it. And I think they put stuff in this movie where it's like, I feel like this could have more relevance if it was gonna go somewhere. And so it's kind of just like, all right, it's the Phoenix Force, it's an alien thing, it's this stuff, this is what's happening. You have the woman who's like talking to Jean in the trailer, like, she's the evil person trying to help Jean either control it or control her, stuff like that. And I was like, okay, that's cool. That leads to some entertaining stuff, because I think they're decent villains. But it's kind of just like, all right, that's, and I think, like I said, I think there's a comic book element where it's just like, oh, there's so much that I feel they that you need is, for it to be Dark Phoenix. And they kind of seem to touch on it like a tiny bit. And then it's just like, well, this is the end, and it doesn't really make a difference. So it's interesting. But yeah, it's X-Men. It's X-Men. I would rank this if I was going through what seems like 8 trillion effing X-Men movies at this point. So we got 1, 2, and 3. Logan, the other Wolverine, no, there's 2 other Wolverine movies. So X-Men Origins, the bad one, made a great video game. You should play the game for X-Men Origins Wolverine. It is fantastic. I love that game. So you got the 3 Wolverine movies, 3 regular movies, First Class, Days of Future Past, all the rhyming stuff, Apocalypse, this one, and I feel like there's something else that I'm missing that's probably super relevant. So we got like 10 movies. Out of 10 movies, I would say you got the first 3. Logan's like, Logan's like, on so many different ways, like Logan's just so different. So I feel like I can't even say like it's number 1 because it's this, and this. It's not a comic book movie. That's just a movie. But this one I'd say ranks. Let's see, Logan. I'd probably put this above 3. Like, Dark Phoenix Part 1. I'd probably put it above that, and it's so hard to say because it's like that one had to build up with other characters. This one technically does, but it doesn't feel like it does. Probably because they killed they kill everybody off from all the other movies. So it's like X-Men First Class, and then they did Days of Future Past. Everybody was dead, and then the last movie came out. They killed Scott's brother. So it was literally like it's 4 people left from X-Men First Class, and it's Xavier, Magneto, Mystique, and Beast, and everyone else is like a brand new character. That's just how it feels, even though technically Quicksilver was in First Class. So oddly enough, he feels more relevant than the other newer characters who get way more focus than him. But I don't know. I'd say, like I said, it's okay. It's better than Origins. That's easy. Do I like this more than the Wolverine? I do not. It's not better than Logan. I'd say it's better than 3. X-Men 2 is probably like the best one, probably second best. Days of Future Past I loved, even though there was the weird continuity started right there. Actually, no, it was way before that. Point is, I'd say it probably marks at like number 5, probably. So you got Logan, X2, the first X-Men, whatever, Days of Future Past. It's like so many effing movies, I can't remember these titles. So that, and then probably this one. Maybe Apocalypse. I don't know. Apocalypse was a mixed bag. That Quicksilver scene was just like through the roof for me. And I was hoping for another one. We don't get one in this, so sadly there isn't some epic Quicksilver scene. It's the scene from the trailer. But yeah, that's pretty much it. I feel like there's not much to say. It's an okay movie. You can see it. I think you'll be okay. You'll be okay with it. See it as a matinee or something like that. The credits, this is a random thing as well. The credits made me think of Terminator 2 because they use like this silver lettering and stuff. And I was like, it looks like they're about to do like some liquid T1000 moving letters and stuff. Random thing, but I was like, it just makes me think of Terminator 2 or the old THX sign. What else is? Yeah, I think that's really it. That's all I can say. Non-spoiler. It's okay. Not a ton of action. They do some good stuff with the Xavier thing, the Dark Phoenix stuff. I don't really care that much about. And it was right. It's right when Jean, basically, they do the stuff where the villain comes in and tries to find Jean and stuff. Right when that happens is where it's like, man, I don't care. It was more entertaining to watch her struggle before someone else came in to be like, this is what you have. This is what's happening. It was more entertaining actually watching her fight against it and be confused than it was to be like, hey, here's the answers. And then she calms down and be like, oh, cool. I was like, yeah, it's more entertaining to watch her freak out and be like, I might hurt the people I love. I have to take off. I have to do this. I have to do that. I have to find a way to control myself. I have to seek help from these people. That was more entertaining. And unfortunately, that's fairly early in the movie. And then, the villain stuff happens. And once they kind of link up, basically is I guess that's pretty much towards the end of the movie. It's like the halfway point. But yeah, it's like, it's entertaining, but once they show the alien stuff, like their side of it specifically isn't that entertaining, and you see bits and pieces until they meet up with Jean. So it's like 1/3 of the story is the enemies trying to get to Jean. That's not that entertaining. And then when that merges with Jean, it makes her thing less entertaining. But fortunately, that's when all the action kicks in, and it's like action, end of movie. All right, get out. That's really how it goes. Like the end of the movie is like a long action sequence, which I don't hate because the action was actually really entertaining, and it do some cool stuff story wise within the fighting, because there's a lot of stuff going on. Mutants, humans, the classic stuff. So I thought that was entertaining. I like what they did with that towards the end. The action was good, but yeah, I feel like there's not much else. Like it's just so average. It's hard to be like, this thing was great. Like I can talk about it, in spoilers, but as far as details, it really revolves around, Xavier's the bad guy. That's really good in this movie. That 100%, I think that was fantastic. The action was good during the end of the movie, because that's really where it all happens. There's some little stuff that happens. Really, you see it in the trailers for the most part. There's, the beats are just like, here's an intense moment, but it's not like, oh, there's a cool action scene. I think they were trying to get deep with it, and it worked like I said, when it was Xavier. And then if it wasn't that, them talking a bunch was just like, here's the villains doing talky stuff. And I think after maybe the 40-minute mark, once they do that stuff where they merge the two storylines of the villains and Jean, I was like, all right, well, her stuff isn't that cool anymore either, because her struggling is way more entertaining than her understanding the answers and just being like, all right, I'll be Phoenix now. So it's like, okay, whatever. So average movie, meh ending, for this super long franchise that certainly had some ups and certainly some lows with X-Men Origins Wolverine. But yeah, it was just an okay movie. So that is it. I can't really say like, go check it out and this and that. If you happen to see the movie, that's cool. You can let me know what you think. If not, and you don't want any spoilers, go check out the movie, come back here, and we'll get right into it. So getting right into the spoilers, I want to specifically talk about how there wasn't a lot of action in this movie, because you have the opening scene where they save the people from the Endeavor. I was like, okay, that was decent, whatever. Quicksilver has this little thing where he goes through. I was like, that's not cool. And then of course he has the scene where she moves the thing, and I was like, oh, that's it for Quicksilver, huh? Cool. It was like X-Men First Class, except he didn't get to do the cool thing. So I was like, sweet, there goes Quicksilver, the person I really want to see. Just not even just for that, like the scene. I just like him as a character because he's funny, at least. Like there could have been a bit more comedy. Like he should have been in there somewhere. Granted, it's Quicksilver. If that happened, things would have been easy. Like, so they always have to throw him out the movie because it's like, well, he's got super speed. How, if he decided to team with Xavier, he would have shot right past everybody. If he teamed with Magneto, he would have just pushed everybody out of the way and then just took, Magneto right in or something, stuff like that. So they always have to write him out because it's like, it's the Superman thing. It's like, he's too overpowered. He fell and got hurt a lot, and he doesn't have super healing or something, I guess. I don't know. But yeah, the action. It was like, okay, they have the cool fight where they're out in the street, which kind of annoyed me because I was like, they're just blowing stuff up. I was a little annoyed because it was like, don't do this. They're going to say we're just like, barbarians in the street and monsters. And then they'd have that scene, and I don't know what the F Cyclops was doing it, but I swear he was just blasting stuff. I'm like, is he not looking? He's like blasting things off of cars and stuff, and I was like, what is happening here? Also, he's supposed, it's a whole comic thing, but I was kind of waiting for them to be like, okay, he's pushing a little button. They even have it in the original movie, which I guess is totally irrelevant to even say that. But they have the different levels for his thing. Like that's, if I'm not mistaken, that's an actual thing from the comics where he has like the different levels. So it's like, okay, here's a little defense blast. Like boom, I pushed you back. Boom, here's a thing to shoot through walls. Boom, here's a murder shot. And everything he did, it seemed like he was just shooting through every single thing. I was like, how is he not killing people? He was, like I said, blasting off of cars. He's trying to shoot people. He hit beasts, but he didn't kill them. But I'm like, he's shooting laser beams through walls, but somehow he doesn't shoot through bodies. And I thought that was weird. Like when he hit the car and it like explodes, I was like, well, that doesn't make sense. And then when he hit the other car, it moved and it ricocheted off the thing. And I was like, how did that work? It pushed the car, but it didn't break the window. And then it ricocheted off and it hit the woman. And I was like, I don't understand the fake science here. It doesn't, like, if they just did the meter thing, it would have worked so much better. But he just had the little button, and I was waiting for a scene because I thought they would do it. Like, it's the last movie, they should have done it. I was hoping they would have a scene where it was like him pushing the button didn't work. Like, not that it didn't shoot, but it wasn't strong enough. But like I said, they weren't actually doing the meter thing. But I was like, if they had done that, they would have had a cool scene where he needed to just hit somebody 100%, and if he just pulled it off and just like blasted them, I thought that would have been a really sweet sequence, and it just never happened. I thought even when they had it at Gene at the end when they were on the train, I was like, this is it, like this is the time to freaking do this move. It's just a cool comic book thing, really. And it was just like he's pushing the button, hitting the button, and then you have, I don't know if they even named that woman, but the villain, she's coming down the hallway. I was like, this is the moment, just pull it off 100%, optic beam. And it just doesn't happen. I was like, that is such a missed opportunity. It's the last movie. Like, and obviously, it wouldn't have to work, but it could have been something where he at least tried and it was like burning her away or some cool visual shot or something. We saw her get shot up in the face, which I love. Like I said, the whole ending action sequence on the train was actually really well done. It was probably one of my favorite action scenes that they've had in any of the X-Men movies, oddly enough. And it was just the way they handled it. Like the scene with Nightcrawler was really sweet where he like picks up the blades and stuff and is like, he sees the guy die. And he picks up the knives and he starts killing people and stabbing people. Also, technically doesn't make sense. Like, I don't understand. So they could get shot in the face with all these handgun bullets, machine gun bullets. The high caliber bullets took them out. I was like, that just makes sense. Okay, high caliber rounds, stronger stuff, takes out more vital things at once. Otherwise, it's just like, ricocheting off of them and stuff. They have super strength. They did a lot of jumping too. That was another thing that annoyed me. They even did it in slow motion at the end with Phoenix when she kills like the person before like the last duo or whatever. He was running and he like jumped and he was like had him on the ropes obviously, and I was like, this looks dumb. Like they're doing it in slow motion. Like he jumped from so far away, and I felt like they did that a bunch in this movie, especially on the train. That was the one thing I kept noticing. I was like, they jumped from super far away and it just looks like they're flying, but they can't fly. And so it just kept bugging me because I'm like, they're jumping from like 10 feet back instead of just being right there. And they're jumping and they're just like this, like, coming at you. And I was like, that's stupid. That doesn't make any sense. And like I said, they show it literally in the slow motion sequence. So, I mean, it's funny how when I like really pick it apart, it seems like I just hate the movie, but it's just stuff that I noticed even while watching it. But yeah, the jumping thing, like I said, Kurt, that was really cool. But him stabbing them somehow worked. But them being shot didn't work. I guess technically in a way that makes sense because the bullets are like, they slow down when they impact and stuff like that, and a knife will just go right through you. So I guess I can, in a sense, can technically overlook that. But that scene was cool. Storm had some cool stuff where she's, doing the lightning. Magneto had a great scene. I love the scene where he crushes the whole train around him and he turns around and he's just like, fuck that guy. And he just throws the whole train. I just thought that was a cool moment. He's just like, whatever, I'm done. And I was like, that's actually pretty sweet. That was a cool Magneto moment. So I love that scene because I thought it was great. Him picking up all the guns. That was even in the trailer. It was funny. I was like, he shouldn't do that because he'd be deaf. Like, I mean, they do that in every movie where they just shoot. They're just blasting off bullets left and right, like it wouldn't do anything. I'm like, he's standing like in this enclosed metal thing. Sound just ricochets off of that. I'm like, this dude would be 100% deaf with all that stuff going on and that vibrations like in those sounds next to his ears. But movie stuff, it was just funny thinking of that. But I like that scene. They have the bullets and the CG on it. I thought was cool where it's like, tearing your face away, which I feel like they were doing some of that stuff on purpose to be like, remember X-Men 3 and how those visuals looked? Here's a little taste of that. And then at the end when she was like blasting people away, I was like, this is X-Men 3. It's just not slow motion with Wolverine where like parts of him are coming off. It was just like, nope, you're gone, you're gone. And they put like rocks in instead of like 100% dust. It was like, you're kind of dusty, but the rest of you crumbles. Like when Xavier goes away in the third movie, it's just like poof, just dust. And I was like, I feel like they're touching on that, but they don't want to a ton. And they were clearly doing it because like even the stuff with the Phoenix Force in general, where like when they're in the apartment or whatever you want to call the condo, and Jean is using her powers and stuff, is starting to like tear away. Like that was clearly, it was like they knew that people were going to be like, well, that looks just like the original X-Men 3, which admittedly it is a great visual design, so that's probably why they stuck with it. That's like the one thing they took over, because it was like, it does look cool to see stuff kind of disintegrate, and it was nice. It was a good effect, so I did enjoy it. But it was funny, like some stuff would just happen. I'm like, this is real close to X-Men 3. But you can't avoid it. It's literally, like it's X-Men 3 Part 2, Dark Phoenix again. So that was something. Love the action at the end. I like the visual when, Jean wakes up and she saves everybody and everybody's in the orbs and you just see metal like, bouncing off the shields she makes. So I thought that was pretty cool. Like I said, the car crash in the very beginning, I thought that was interesting. Her not controlling her powers and like her mom passes out and that's why they crashed. I thought that was cool. I thought it was interesting. I thought that was cool that she died. But I thought it was interesting. And then them revealing the fact that her dad didn't want her and stuff like that. I was like, that's a good scene too. Like they did some good stuff story-wise. That was good. Like I said, the stuff with Xavier, when they're in the kitchen, he's like, yo, this is where I first met Raven and stuff like that. I was like, this is a good scene. And that's what I thought, because I'm like, it looks like it's the kitchen, but it's a totally different angle. It was all lit up and stuff, and it was like a dark close-up. They're like all medium shots. Or they may have been close-up shots in X-Men First Class when they were kids. It was all like close-up shots, so you didn't see the whole room. But I was like, I think this is the room. He's like, this is where I first met her. I was like, oh, this is gonna be a good scene, and it was. And he was drinking a lot too. That was another thing. Like he went in when he was first talking to Mystique. He was like, I'm gonna pick this up, pour a little bit here, and then as soon as he went in that kitchen, he was like, I'm just gonna pick this up. Oh, this is where I met Raven. How about that? I was like, this dude's just getting drunk. It was just drunk, full of himself, Xavier, which I thought was good. I thought they did a good job with that. And it takes, pretty much the whole movie for him to really realize that he needs to come around and that he was wrong, because he wouldn't admit that he was wrong. Like, yes, and it was funny because he does it at the end. He should have done it in the beginning, but exactly what he says at the end is what he could have said at first, to be like, I did it to help, but yeah, I screwed it up. Like that's all he had to really say. Was like, it was meant to be this thing, and he just felt attacked, and he was living the high life where it's like, oh, Mr. President, it's the X phone and stuff like that, which I thought was funny. And I was so curious. I was like, how are they gonna rewrite this stuff? And I don't know why I even cared. Like, it's the last movie. I shouldn't even been thinking that. But I was like, well, how does that fit in with the timeline? Like, as if anything even made a difference. But they do kind of cut him off. It was like, Jean does one bad thing, and it was like, yeah, we're cutting off the X phone. You can't talk to the president, any of that stuff. Mutants are no more, no longer heroes. And I was like, well, that kind of works. Where they had their high, and then it goes back down. It's like, okay, people know who mutants are and stuff like that. Because it was like, after Apocalypse, everybody knows who the mutants are. But I was like, okay, it was cool. I'd do that. Did some good stuff with Xavier, like I said, the hubris of him and him having this idea and him blocking things out. And he did it for good reasons. The road to hell is paved with good intentions. So I was like, all right, they did some good stuff there. Like I said, the stuff with Jean initially, like the first 3 or so times, like up until she killed Raven, it was cool. And, like her sitting in the rain, be like, I'm confused, and why'd you make me do this? And then once that woman found her at the bar, it was just like, yep, it got kind of boring. It wasn't like, the whole movie got boring. That specific storyline, like her struggling, was way more entertaining to me. And maybe that's just me. I would love to know your opinion on that. But her struggling to figure out, like her, having to go to Magneto and then being like, I can't tell him whose blood this is because he'll flip out and try to kill me, and then I might kill him, and I don't want him to, I don't actually want to die, and I certainly don't want to hurt him. And I like that little back and forth where she was trying to stop him because he was getting a little close. He's like, I want to see you mad and stuff, which she totally would have killed him. But I like that stuff. Like, all of that I thought was entertaining. And then it was like, this is the thing. They don't say the Phoenix Force or any of that. But here's the Phoenix Force, and we followed it. It destroyed our planet. Then we were trying to find it, and then we find out the villains. It's like, if we can't control her, we'll destroy it. We can't control the power, we'll destroy it. And I was like, okay. Fortunately, after that, I guess was kind of the action sequence. But I felt like watching them in general, like the villains in general, their whole thing I thought wasn't entertaining. Like the scene where they first show up, I thought that was cool because they kill the woman. I assume they kill the dog because the dog stopped barking, and the way that they would like just she would just like crush people's chests, and it was just like boom, and they're dead. I was like, okay, visually, it's very, it's an impactful thing. It's just boom, and then that person's gone, and that's how it is. I kind of like that when villains are like on that level. And then it was just like, oh, it kind of slowed down a bit, and they just weren't that entertaining. Like they seemed cool. And then, of course, when it gets in the crazy action mode, it was definitely entertaining because they're just like zombies pretty much, 28 days later type zombies. And they're just running, and they can take bullets and this and that. And they kind of were like zombies. There were so many of them. They were mostly CG, except for like the 5 people. None of them had names. I swear, I don't think they actually named that woman. She had a real name, like the human person, because they definitely named that character. But I'm pretty sure none of the characters have names. They reference their planet, I think, or at least their species. It was like the Dobrik Empire or something like that. But I'm pretty sure they don't say their actual names. They probably have names. They probably don't. I didn't even bother to think about that when I was watching the credits. I was like, man, I wish I thought of that. But yeah, I don't think they even name them. That's how pointless they are. None of them have names. They just kind of seem cool. They're always like dressed up in suits and stuff. Like that makes them better. And then, at the end of the movie, they're zombies on a train running in. They take a bunch of shots. They get tossed out of windows or tossed out the side of the train, stuff like that. Then they get crushed at the end. I will say, the one woman getting killed by the train was actually super cool because that was just a great scene from Nightcrawler where he just pops her in front of the train tracks. And then he just pops out of the way, and then she gets hit by the whole train. I was like, that was actually cool, too. So that's why I love the ending as far as the action sequence. Actually, like that, everything on the train, I thought was fantastic. Like, the little bit of story, at least that we got there, was like, Xavier actually apologizing, them figuring out, like, like, these are actually aliens, they aren't mutants, like, you need our help, like, we want to help you, we're not the bad guys here. All that stuff I thought was well done. The action sequence was actually great. Like I said, I loved that action sequence. Like, everyone had some cool scene, at least. For the most part, Nightcrawler scene was a standout. Magneto was a standout, especially him, like, crushing the train. But, like, when he stabs one dude, and, like, he stabs through their hand and then pushes it through their neck and then pulls it back out. Like, the stuff he was doing was pretty sweet because he was, like, just picking up, like, chipping pieces off the ground and would, like, slam them through somebody's stomach and then just toss them out the train. Everything he did was just, it just looked cool. So, I love that. Storm, like I said, with the lightning, that's super cool. So they definitely had some good stuff. They should have had this scene for Cyclops, I'm telling you. They just pull off the optic beams, just boom, down the whole train, like just blast through every single door or something. Like even if that just sent her backwards, and that's what allowed for them to have enough time for Jean to wake up, that's what they could have done. Just one scene. I just wanted to see him like rip the effing things off and just go nuts. Just giant optic beam straight down. I don't know why I wanted that so bad, but I was like, he's pushing that button. And that was another thing. It was kind of funny to see there was like an actual button. And I was like, man, I'm so used to him having the visor, and he clicks the thing, and it was just like beep beep beep, and like that. It was just and it was so visible. It literally just looked like a button on a phone, and I was just like, it just looks like I'm just boop 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 boop, and like it was, I don't know, something about that just really stood out. Like I could just see the actual button. I was like in my head, I could literally imagine it clicking every time you push it. Like I don't know why, but it's never stood out before, but it was just like a button on some glasses, and it got me. I don't know, but. Yeah, it's X-Men. This is the last X-Men movie as far as Sony is concerned. So we'll see what Marvel does. We will see what actors they get. We will see what characters they even bother to throw in this thing. They'll probably do classic, X-Men 90s cartoon and pick those characters because those are everyone's favorites because people grew up on the cartoon. So they'll throw in your classics. You got to have Xavier, have Beast, Wolverine, Jean. I don't know what they would do. It's just hard to tell where they're really going to go with this. But as far as this movie is concerned, it was okay. They did a lot of talking. Some parts were good. Everything with the villains I just thought was very meh. And I think that is the biggest thing that brought the whole movie down. Every scene with them, outside of them killing people, it was just like, I know what's going to happen. They're going to go in. Their introduction was cool because it was like, this is weird and creepy. That was a cool sequence. They go meet the dad. I was like, okay, they turned on him super quick. And I don't know why. In my head, it feels like it took up so much of the movie having to deal with these boring villains. But it didn't really. Like, when I really look at it, it's like they had the introduction, which I enjoyed. The scene with the dad. Her talking to Jean, which was both of those I didn't care much for. Her explaining the whole thing to Jean, I didn't care much for. So that is like 3 scenes. That was probably a decent 15 minutes of the movie. Where it was just like, I just don't care anything about any of this stuff. in anything that they're doing in any way, shape, or form. The very end of the first fight sequence in the apartment where she's taking Jean's powers, I was like, okay, well, that's an interesting moment. And, she's trying to take, I just assumed it would have killed her instantly anyway. So it was kind of confusing. Like, she was trying to take all the power, but I'm like, I don't think she would have been able to actually control the power to begin with, which they prove at the end of the movie when Jean's like, no, you want to take the power, you're going to have all of it, and it would have killed her. So I'm like, where was that going to go? So little stuff like that, where it's like, well, she was going to take the power, it would have killed her, which they proved at the end, because that's how she beats the villain. Like, she gives her the power. Well, technically, she gets rid of her, because if she gave it to her, it would have just exploded and killed everyone. But she was going to, in order to kill, the villain. So that would have happened. So it was like the villain should have known that, but for some reason she couldn't feel it. Like, it didn't feel bad the first time, but it felt bad the second time, even though it seemed like Jean was basically passing out, and it seemed like she was taking all of the power the first time anyway. So it's just little stuff like that where it's like, that didn't make a lot of sense. They never even explained the beast thing, by the way. That confused me right off the top, where he was just like, boom, beast. It was like some effing Power Rangers type stuff. Like, it's morphin time. Boop. He probably hit a button too, and just bam, he's transformed. And I was like, how does that work? How does that even happen? Mystique having they talk about people talk about this in the trailer, but it was true. The hair looked crappy. The makeup, wasn't none of the detail. And I was like, oh, that's why they did that. She was in like 10 minutes in the movie in the makeup, and then she's dead, which I think we all expected because they kind of spoiled it in the trailer. But yeah. What a movie. I would love to see that action scene again. I thought that was great. I really love that action sequence. It was one of my favorites out of all the movies. That is one of my favorite action sequences that they've had in any X-Men movie. And I feel like they did that on purpose. I feel like they knew what they were doing. I thought it was going to be like kind of meh. But man, I actually really enjoyed it. Just from the trailer, because I thought it was going to be Jean just like capturing, like they got captured and then Jean came to like kill them all or whatever. But it ended up being like a really sweet scene, to me at least. Love the Nightcrawler stuff. Like I said, him teleporting and using I'm pretty sure he stabbed his tail through a dude's neck at one point. I know he choked a guy and like snapped his neck, but I'm pretty sure he used his tail and actually stabbed through a guy, because I'm like, it looked like he did, but it could have just been, because he had the knife on it and he just slit his throat or something like that. I don't know. But yeah, little stuff like that. That was cool. So ending scene was great. The little fight in the street, like I said, kind of annoyed me, because I was like, well, they're causing all this chaos. I was still trying to figure out what was going on with that one woman's powers. She was like, you can control minds and stuff. And I was like, how does that technically work? Where I guess she was making him teleport faster or teleport towards her. So I guess that does make sense. But, you had the hair whip braid dude. I was like, that's a unique power. Not as cool as I was anticipating, but okay. Yeah, and then the rest of the movie. Quicksilver should have been in it way more. That really did disappoint me. I knew he was going to get taken out. Like, even in the trailer, I was like, I know that it's going to be like the apocalypse scene where she can see what's happening. And all she had to do was move the thing. And I was like, okay, I guess that's it. Also, wouldn't he, I don't know. He's got super speed. They've proven that if he stands still and moves super fast, it's the same as him running. So, like, if he fell, couldn't he just still be, like, vibrating at super speed, and he wouldn't have been hit by, like, a tornado that sent him flying down the block? And I was like, that doesn't make sense. Why wouldn't he just stay in super speed and then just, new plan, figure something out, take off for a second, come back? And it's just like, it doesn't make any sense. I don't know. I just don't know. But it's the last X-Men movie. It is what it is. Great ending for the action sequence. Loved the scene in the kitchen. That was great. Hank, like, smashing the bottle and stuff. That was really cool. I love the fact that his glass of water stayed totally still, because he did like this across the table, but I guess it was like just high enough and it went over his glass, and for some reason that stood out during that scene too. I thought it was just funny because he, like, the whole glass, it was a breakaway glass and it just shatters on the table, and I was like, that little glass of water that he had was perfectly still. X-Men Dark Phoenix. It was a decent movie. Like I said, wouldn't really say like go out and see it, but the action sequence at the end, that was pretty sweet. I like that for sure. So, would love to know what you guys thought about the movie. So please put your comments down in the comment section below. Favorite parts, least favorite parts. Was it a good ending for the X-Men franchise? Not really. It wasn't. It was just okay. It was just okay. It could be worse. It could have been X-Men Origins Wolverine. And I just don't know. I'm trying to figure out, like, do I like this more than I like Apocalypse? Because story-wise, I feel like I like this more just for, like, the dialogue. Like, the scene in the kitchen was great. Jean being confused, that was good. The stuff with Magneto when she like first goes to the island, which is another thing. They were like referencing him having like the mutant island and stuff, and I was like, oh, that's cool. That's not gonna go anywhere. He's not gonna have Asteroid M because this is the end. This is it. But that was cool. It was cool they put that in there. But dialogue was good. Story technically Dark Phoenix is fun, but in this movie, the context it was meh. And then Apocalypse, it was like, well, I don't know. I feel like I liked it more, but also, and that transcends right into this movie, me not giving a crap about the characters in this movie is because of that last movie. Like, I didn't care about Jean, I didn't care about Scott, I didn't care about Nightcrawler. Jubilee wasn't in it. That literally just dawned on me. She wasn't in the movie. That pisses me off because, oh, well, she technically wasn't in the last one because it was a deleted scene, so I guess that's fine. Dang, that really sucks because I saw those pictures. She looked perfect as Jubilee. That really sucks. There's no point. I feel like I should go into a rant for this. I don't know. I may have to gather my thoughts and I'll figure out how to just hate on this more. But I kind of, just watching it, I was just like, okay. But I think I'm starting to really feel it all. So maybe there'll be a rant. Probably not tonight. But I think over the weekend I'll process some stuff, watch some other reviews, get some of the things that I didn't notice, but, bring back some of the things I did, like effing Cyclops beams, man. He was blasting through walls, but it didn't blast through people. But then on that one car, it ricocheted off the window. That just doesn't work. So I would love to know what you guys thought about this movie, the last of the X-Men Sony movies. So please put your comments down in the comment section below. Sorry about all the tangents and stuff that I just was thinking of, or was like, what the F were they doing? But it had to be said. It's the last time I can say it. It's the last X-Men movie, which sucks. I was hoping for a Wolverine reference, honestly, and I was hoping Deadpool would pop up, like, oh, just something, anything. Not in the movie, but I thought that would have been a good post-credit sequence where it was like Deadpool watching like the dramatic scene, like, oh wow, I can't believe that happened, and then like Deadpool 3, something silly, I don't know. But thanks for checking this out. If you guys have any comments, please put them down in the comment section below. And seriously, would love to know where you guys rank this movie. Like, where does it rank amongst the 10 or so X-Men movies? What was good? What was bad? Did you even care that Raven died for Mystique? I mean, they say Raven so much. That's her name. It's Raven Darkholm. They don't even say Phoenix. They call her the Phoenix, but they don't just say it's the Phoenix Force. Just say it. It's the last movie. They might as well have just said every comic book thing there was to say. I feel like there's more stuff to be annoyed by with this movie, but I'll figure that stuff out later. Thanks for checking this out.